Hello beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a butterfly bubu dress. So let's get started. So this is the fabric I'm going to be using. This is a chiffon fabric. You should have your fabric and your basic sewing supplies. So I'm going to fold this fabric into 4 places. And the length of my dress, I want my dress to be very long. So if I can get up to 60 inches on this length, then I'll prefer it. So I'm going to fold my fabric now into 4 because I'm going to be cutting the front and the back together. So I'm going to fold it now and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So after folding my fabric into 4 places, I'm going to be cutting the front and the back together. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw out my vertical measurements. I'm not going to be slanting my shoulders because I'm not going to be cutting this part. I'm going to leave it like that. So that's for my shoulder. So I'm going to take this as my shoulder length. So from here, I'll measure downwards. I'll measure from here to my armhole. From the top down here is 10 inches. So I'll measure 11. And then from my shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. So I'll measure 12 inches. I'll mark. From my shoulder to my waist is 19 inches. I'll measure and I'll mark. Then from my shoulder to my hip is 26 inches. I'll measure 26 inches. I'll mark. And then the length of the dress that I want to make, I want it to be 60 inches. So I'm going to measure 16 inches down here. I'll do the same thing for the other side and then I'll draw out my horizontal measurements. The fabric is very slippery, so when you're cutting chiffon, just be careful. So I've measured out my vertical measurements. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plot in my neck width and my neck depth. I'm going to be using a neck width of 4 inches and a neck depth of 4 inches. So this is what I have. So I'm working on the right side of my fabric. So whatever I do on this side, I'm going to do on the other side as well. Because this is a butterfly dress and we're going to be sewing on the right side. So the next thing I need to do now is to plot in my measurements. So my shoulder measurement is 18 inches. By the time I divide that by 2, it's going to give me 9 inches. I'm going to measure 9 inches on my shoulder line. This is my shoulder line. And then whatever length you want your bubu dress to have is what you're going to plot in after the shoulder line. So for my sleeve, I want mine to be long. So I'm going to be using 19 inches. So I'll measure 19 inches from my shoulder line. And I'll just mark. So from this 19 inches, I'll draw it down to my chest line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to plot in my circumference measurement. So my bust circumference measurement is 44 inches. By the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 11 inches. So I'm going to be adding ease because I want it to be free as well. So I'm going to be adding 2 inches. And that will be 13 inches. And then my waist circumference measurement is 38 inches. By the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 9.5 inches. I'm going to add 2 inches to that as well. And that will give me 11.5 inches. I'll mark it there on my waistline. And then my hip circumference measurement is 47 inches. So by the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 11.75 inches. I'm going to add 2 inches. And that's 13.75 inches. 13.75. I'm going to plot it on my hip line. So if you want, you can add whatever you have on your hip line. You can add to the length. I'm going to be using the same because I'm going to be leaving some sides open. So I'm going to be taking this 13.75. I'm going to plot it on my length line and then I'll connect all the points. So on the length line, I'm going to plot in 13.75. I'm going to plot it here and I'll mark. So now I'm going to connect all the points. So my sleeve length is 19 inches and my shoulder line is 9 inches. By the time I add the 2 of them together, it's going to give me 28 inches. So I'm going to measure 28 inches on each of these horizontal measurements and then I'll connect with a straight line. So I'm going to be cutting out that. So I'm not going to cut out this shape. This shape, I'm just going to sew it. This shape we're making here, I'm just going to sew it. Where we're going to be cutting out is the edge. So that's 28 inches. So I measure 28 inches on all my horizontal measurements, and then I'll draw a straight line across and connect them. That's what I'm going to be cutting out. So I'm going to connect from here to here. So I connect from this top as well down here. Just make sure your fabric is straight, because this fabric is really difficult to work with. So just align your fabric and make sure it's straight. Then you draw a line. So I'm going to make sure I align my fabric now, make sure it's straight, and I'll draw a line across. So you see this line that I took my sleeve length, so all the way down, I'm going to cut it out. So whatever your sleeve length is plus your shoulder measurement, that's half of your shoulder, add it together and measure it on your bust circumference measurement, on your waistline, your hip line, and to the length of your top, and then you draw a straight line. The fabric is really slippery. If you're using a chiffon or a slippery fabric, try to make sure they align, and then you draw a straight line to connect. So I'm going to cut it out now. I'm going to make a curve at the bottom of my dress. So this is the bottom of my dress. I'm going to measure 10 inches upwards. 10 inches upwards. So this is my right line. This line. This other one is not the right one. This is the right one. So I'm going to connect with a curve to meet the length of my dress, because I want a curve at the bottom. So I'm going to curve it to get to the 10 inches to the top. So this is going to be a curve. So now I'm going to cut out. So after cutting out, this is what I have. You see my curve? So I'm going to serge the edges. So the next thing you need to do now is to draw out the shape of our dress. And that's what we're going to be sewing on. So I connect from this to this. And then this to this. And then this goes all the way down. I'm not going to sew all the way down. I'm going to stop here so that I can have like a slit. This is where I'm going to stop. So I can have like an opening at the bottom. This is where I'm going to start from. And this is the line I'm going to follow all the way to this point. This is where I want to stop. So you see the shape? So this same shape, you're going to draw it on the other side as well. I'm going to cut out the neckline now, and then I will go and sew from here all the way down to that side, and then on the other side as well. So just make sure you notch on the edges. I'm going to cut out my neckline. I'm going to be finishing up my neckline with a bias tape. So this is my dress. I'm going to notch the edges so that when I turn it to the other side, I will draw the same shape on that side. So this is our dress taking shape. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this same pattern on the other side of my dress. So after doing the other side, this is what we have. So this is one side and this is the other side. So I'm going to go sew from here all the way down. I'm going to serge the edges as well, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So after serging and sewing the sides of my dress, this is what I have. So this pattern marked are the sides I sew, and I also serged the edges. So these are the edges that I serged. So the next thing we need to do now is to finish up the neckline. I'm going to be using a bias tape to finish up the neckline of my dress. So I do not have any matching bias. This is the one I have. So this is one I'm going to be using. You should use a matching color. I'm using this for demonstration purposes. I do not have any black at home right now, so I'm going to show you how to use this to finish up. So I'm going to open up this tape like this, and then I'll place it on here, right sides facing right sides. I'll pin it round, and I'm going to sew on this side. Once I finish sewing on this side, I'm going to flip it over. So right sides facing right side. So I'm going to pin, and I'm going to pin it round neckline. I'm just opening one part of the tape and I'm pinning. So I'm going to pin it round. Once I finish pinning, and I'm going to flip it in like this. And then I'm going to sew this round on the inside. I'll go and sew it now, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So after sewing the neckline, this is what we have. This is my neckline. So I have finished it up with a bias tape. So this is our dress. This is what it looks like. This is the dress all done. So with these, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Would you be trying out this dress? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.